I really didn't expect this channel to go the places it did. 25,000 people choosing to subscribe to little ol' me? Wow. I never really set this up as something with a lot of thought behind it. All this time I've been using the same video game music I grew up on, the same B-roll of Winamp visualizers that doesn't even match the audio. Hold on, let me fix that. Much better. Oh, and most of all, this little cafe barista that has nothing to do with anything. I realize I've never come out and said, why is that? So today I'm finally explaining his life story, whether you like it or not. Buckle up, because I'm gonna go over everything. So as I'm sure you can tell, Whipped Coffee Cookie is my OC, original character if you will. I made him in December of 2020 and he looked like this. Oh my god! Can you tell I started doing art a month earlier after having given up on it in 7th grade? The process of getting to his final design was basically me showing him to someone, them offering to draw it, then making some major design change that was better than anything I could think of, and me making it the new canon design. Now here's where I credit those 3 artists, but 2 of them have left the internet and didn't want to be credited. But it's okay because the remaining artist is Panseer and they were responsible for 3 out of those 5 edits. Oh my god, somebody stop them. Anyways, the inspiration for Whipped Coffee Cookie came when I myself worked at a cafe for 3 weeks in February of 2020. Yeah, I think you can tell why I got laid off. But in that time, I met a guy whose name I don't remember who was supposed to be training me. The funny thing about him was that he would screw up every other order he made, and I would just stand there and watch as this guy ruined a drink and everyone around me acted like it was nothing. It was honestly the least soul-sucking part of that job, and so when designing Whipped Coffee, I wanted to take that chaotic neutral energy and pour it into a twink. As for his backstory, Whipped Coffee Cookie was a gentle little soul born into a pretty fortunate family. Growing up, his classmates may have picked on him for the way that he would always trip and mess things up, but he didn't care. His father ran a successful software business, and right out of high school he was given an office job doing data entry there. All he had to do was type the commands as they were written out. It should be pretty easy for anyone to do. With one little mistake, all of his dad's customers' work had been wiped out, and the website started showing an error page. Freaking out, he ran up to the head office and started explaining the situation, at which point his father started freaking out in response. In a moment of stress, he quickly ran to the server room to see if there were any backups, but he forgot the cup of coffee he was holding in his hand. With one misplaced step, the server was no more. It took a month of work from all of his dad's engineers to rebuild the database, at which point clients finally started returning. But for Whipped Coffee, it was far too late. He was given 2 weeks to pack up and leave, and with nowhere else to go, he was left without a home. From then on, he spent his days living out of a cardboard box and digging around for food. Morale was low, but something inside of him couldn't help but feel hope that someday, eventually, things would change. And then that day came. The mysterious man with colorful hair saw him digging around in the dumpster behind a vacant restaurant for sale. Now any other business cookie would see this and feel bad, maybe even reconsider purchasing the building, but Rainbow Latte Cookie was different. He saw a glimmer of potential in this little guy's eyes and he reached to pull him out. The two lived together for a little while and started getting to know each other, but Coffee couldn't help but be charmed by his confident demeanor, his elegance seeping into everything he did, and his tendency to spoil him. But he wasn't in it for the gifts or anything frilly like that. This was love. And so, after months of going on dates and living together, Rainbow Latte Cookie finally popped the question, do you want to start a cafe with me? See, Rainbow Latte had tried to turn that vacant building they met behind into a business, but he was struggling to get any customers. Most who tried the place would come in, be greeted by a smug hipster smile, and feel too disgusted to even finish their drink. Something about him just rubbed other cookies the wrong way, so he figured, why not give him a shot? Bringing Whippy in on an off day to start training, he found that his new employee wasn't particularly competent at his job. He would spill every other drink, forget part of the order, or even make the wrong thing entirely. But determined to prove himself, he kept going with the training. It was in that moment, learning how to operate a coffee pot one more time, that he slipped in a puddle he made earlier, at which point the pot went flying, smashing the monitor that displayed orders. Oh god, he thought. I'm gonna get kicked out again, aren't I? But to his surprise, he looked up at Rainbow Latte to see him smiling harder than ever, reaching out to pick him up off the floor, for it was at that moment he was inspired. Fast forward to opening day for the new and improved establishment, which Rainbow Latte opted to rename to Whipped Coffee Cafe. At first, Whippy was confused. Why name the whole thing after one new employee that might not even last a whole week? Still, happy to have a job at all, he pushed forward as the first customers rolled in. First few orders were uneventful. Rainbow looked as customers went in and out, watching curiously as he wondered if anything had really changed. Sure, customers were no longer disgusted, but did he really make the right decision centering the whole business around him? Then he looked up to see it happen again. He had tripped and somehow managed to cover himself with a single cup of coffee. The worried look on his face returned as all the customers surrounded him. For the last time, he felt like a disappointment. But to his shock, they too were smiling. "So cute," one of them said. "I gotta come here more often." Finally, all of his worries started to fade away. He realized that this was Rainbow's plan all along, and at long last he'd found a place where people liked him for who he was. Even though he never ended up getting better at his job, it didn't matter. Soon enough, customers started flocking to the store specifically to watch his antics, just as Rainbow Latte had hoped. That's where they are now. Now for a few other co-workers at the Whipped Coffee Cafe. Strawberry Yogurt Cookie is a docile little creature who signed up to work at the cafe after taking a liking to the star employee. He usually helps out on the bakery side of things, making cookies and pastries and the like. Don't ask about the politics of cookies eating cookies. The two of them are close, helping each other out pretty often without getting in the way of each other, and while I'd hesitate to call them an item, they do hang out and go on dates occasionally. And yes, this means Whipped Coffee is Polly. I can make him kiss Cream Unicorn all I want, and you're not going to do anything about it! Next up is Amaretto Tiramisu, a bartender in his 30s who used to have his own bar on the 4th floor of a skyscraper. The perfect place to go bankrupt. Rainbow Latte, being a long-time regular there due to having previously worked nearby, reached out and let him turn the cafe into a pub at night. This turned out to be enough of a successful venture, giving him the freedom to do whatever he wanted with the place as long as everything was back to normal by the next morning. So even if he's 16 years older than Whipped Coffee, they can still coexist. Lastly, Blueberry Lemonade Cookie, who takes morning shifts to help with the drive-thru during rush hour. He specializes in the sweeter Starbucks kind of drinks, but he also does coffee too, which is great because a busy office cookie doesn't have time to watch a cute guy ruin his shirt for the 10th time today.
"What do you think I am, made of money?"
Now, we don't really know a whole lot about Blueberry Lemonade, but I'm sure we'll learn more about his backstory someday, because Lord knows I don't. So that's basically everything there is to know. I guess one more thing I should clarify is that me using Whipped Coffee Cookie as my persona doesn't really apply to the lore per se. Like, there's this little guy who works as a barista, then there's me, a non-binary person face-claiming him while I laugh at words on a screen. But as long as you keep them separate, I don't really mind being referred to as such. Also, I'd like to thank everyone who's made fan art of him. It really means a lot to me. Feel free to check out these artists on screen and join my Discord if you want to show me some of yours. Also, special thanks to Costa Mentality for the little sketch animated segments. They really knocked it out of the park, honestly. Lastly, if you like this little guy, go to syrupy.cafe to get him on a shirt or a sticker. Please buy him on a sticker, I ordered way too many. I've been Syrupy, and you've been bisexual.